Welcome to a fasting space. I'm Dr. Zimmerman. So nice to have you here. I thought I'd frame our discussion today with just a little passage from a book I was reading. This book is The Creative Act by Rubin. I highly recommend just about anyone read it. It's basically an artistic book. And I think maybe traditionally maybe read by musicians, artists, writers. As I was reading through it, I was reading it from the perspective of this channel, both personally about, how to make content, but I was also reading it from the standpoint of actually doing the work of losing weight, getting healthier. And so I thought I'd share how this book starts with you. Everyone is a creator. And as I'm reading through it, I want you to think about your life, how you make decisions, and how you're creating the experience that you're having. Those who do not engage in the traditional arts might be wary of calling themselves artists. They might perceive creativity as something extraordinary or beyond their capabilities, a calling for the special few who are born with these gifts. Fortunately, this is not the case. Creativity is not a rare ability. It is not difficult to access. Creativity is a fundamental aspect of being a human being. It's our birthright, and it's for all of us. Creativity doesn't exclusively relate to making art. We all engage in this act on a daily basis. To create is to bring something into existence that wasn't there before. Could be a conversation, the solution to a problem, a note to a friend, the rearrangement of the furniture in a room, a new route home to avoid a traffic jam. What you make doesn't have to be witnessed, recorded, sold, or encased in glass for it to be a work of art. Through the ordinary state of being, we're already creators in the most profound way, creating our experience of reality and composing the world we perceive. Each moment, we're immersed in a field of undifferentiated matter from which our senses gather bits of information. The outside universe we perceive, it doesn't exist as such. Through a series of electrical and chemical reactions, we generate a reality internally. We create forests and oceans, warmth and cold. We read words, hear voices, and form interpretations, and then in an instant, we produce a response. All of this in a world of our own creation. Regardless whether or not we're formally making art, we are all living as artists. We perceive, filter, collect data, and curate an experience for ourselves and others based on this information set. Whether we do this consciously or unconsciously, by the mere fact of being alive, we're active participants in the ongoing process of creation. To live as an artist is a way of being in the world, a way of perceiving, a practice of paying attention, refining our sensitivity to tune in to the more subtle notes, looking for what draws us in and what pushes us away, noticing what feeling tones arise and where they lead. A tuned choice by a tuned choice, your entire life is a form of self-expression. You exist as a creative being in a creative universe, a singular work of art. I thought that was such a beautiful passage, inspiring. And if you're looking to move in a direction of health, I think this is a type of thought that can really inspire and and lead to some really beautiful ways of approaching it. To take the stress and the intensity, and so often the scientific, analytic, cold process that we're often presented, and to think more broadly, to think of approaching it as a creative act, as a work of art, I think is really beautiful. If we think of an analogy like a painter, right? If we are trying to create a health experience in life, what is the palette the color palette that we are painting with? Maybe you can think of it like, how we eat, how we move, how we think, right? It's our way of being as an artistic expression. In making a piece of art, there's not really rules. A lot of the most creative pieces of art are breaking down formally accepted conventions. So many times in life, we get stuck in habits, we get stuck in grooves, where it's like we keep making the same choices. Looking things from an artistic perspective, as a creative process. So how can it change? How can we paint a new picture? How can we play a new tune? If you have some self-reflection and say, like, is the expression of my life at this point in tune with what I would envision for it? How could we add a new brush stroke and move it in a beautiful direction that expresses what we're actually feeling? That's the thought I had as I was reading through that book. I hope you're doing well. I hope as this spring session, as I'm recording this, that you are able to be getting outside, hopefully, where you're at. Some beautiful weather, a time to get active, a time to focus on renewal and revitalization. This is what I want to do with the fasting practice. Fasting, an open space, giving the body space to burn off the excess, revitalize the system. The thought I was having this week that kept coming to me was balancing two thoughts. One was persistence. As we're moving toward a health goal, you need to have persistence. And what is that exactly? Persistence, it seems to me today, has to be something that you care about. It's consistent action towards something you care about. That's one thought I've been having. How do we develop routines and habits that are helpful in allowing us to continually move toward a goal that we have? This is why I've never really been a fan of the word intermittent fasting. I like routine fasting. I usually just say fasting. A cycle, a routine, or a pattern that helps us stay in a groove is something that helps us build persistence. Now, the other side, to balance it out, is letting go. And that's the other side of it. That so often in life we get so attached to things, our habits, our cycles, that they can be barriers or sources of stress or frustration. So sometimes the right answer is persistence, really driving. And sometimes the answer is, I think, to back off and to say, it's okay just to give it space. Fasting in an interesting space there because it's just openness. It's just open space. So we be persistent in our exploration of openness. Really like that. Persistent in our exploration of openness only insofar as it feels good and it's taking us in a better direction. And it feels like a practice of wellness and wholeness. Never to an extent that it's pushing us in a direction where we feel burdened or worse by it. Many colors to paint with, right? Fasting be one expression of that. To me, it's one of the strongest expressions because we live in a culture that is a consumption culture. Fasting very countercultural to me when a culture says consume, 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 and you are deficient and you need to do this. Like, there's strength. This is what I want people to see. There's strength in the body. Energy storage in the body is a resource that we can use anytime that we choose to do it. If we need to lose weight, if we need to burn blood sugar, we don't need to be afraid of the body. We don't need to be afraid to use this energy. And we don't need to be afraid in the short term of being slightly uncomfortable. I would be the first to say that the first times I tried fasting, it's intense. And because we're told so much by our culture, oh, never be hungry, everybody, so many people want to sell us solutions to that problem. Always things to fill that space. Then it can feel intimidating to say, oh, I'm just going to say no to that. I'm going to trust the body, trust this experience, use this resource that I have. Most people's experience is that over time, the intensity of it fades. People come to feel quite good. It's kind of a paradox. Initially, many things in life are this way. There's a barrier to entry, right? I want people to see that a barrier to entry of fasting is more of a mental barrier than a physiologic barrier in most cases. Most people, when I ask them about it, it's like, have you had an experience where you ever did it without thinking about it? Most people have had it at some point. Something came up they weren't able to eat. And then it's kind of split. Some people's like, oh, I didn't even think about it. It was no big deal. Like, there's like a key life experience where you can use to kind of open your mind to say, hey, this sort of experience might not be so bad. Don't need to be intimidated on it. The other type of experience, people said, oh, it was rough. It was not good. That's also an experience to draw from. All of our experiences we can draw from. If you had a difficult experience when you weren't voluntarily moving toward it, just realize, like, You can break that down into the tiniest steps. So I'm just going to move toward it in the tiniest bit that I can tolerate or appreciate. And then you work from there. That's how you never stress about it. That's the creative process. How do you use this mindset to build the experience that you want to have? It doesn't necessarily always happen right away. So here's the experience that I want to have. Here's where I'm at physiologically. And I'm going to move toward it one step at a time. Those are my thoughts of the week. I hope you enjoyed the passage and give some good thinking about it over the week. Let me know in the comments if you're coming through, if you have reflections on it. How does that passage on creating your experience speak to you in this week, and how might you use it in the week to come? I wish you the very best. I will connect with you on the channel throughout the week and next week as well. Be well.